Greetings, most gracious audience. I am Sir Persevere, Knight of the Hand-Drawn Realm.
And I am Speckles, Salamander of the Hand-Drawn Realm and the talking animal sidekick to Sir Persevere. Today we are going to talk about the company formerly known as Disney.
But before we go any further, please make sure to check out Odin's movie blog. Odin is an all-around good man of excellent character and possessing keen taste of film. With that shout-out thus taken care of, let us proceed with the news. This may be old news by now, but it is a topic of discussion that is of great interest to me. My arch-nemesis, the CEO of Disney, that wretched Little Bobby Igor, has stepped away from his position of power he held for over a decade. At long last, that greedy little corporate overlord is no longer the CEO. He has committed many crimes against pop culture. He killed Disney's iconic hand animation and put a big emphasis on Pixar and its dull, tiresome, and monotonous CGI. Not content with murdering Disney's hand animation, Little Bobby Igor proceeded to buy up Marvel, Lucasfilm, and 20th Century Fox.
Don't forget, Disney calls it 20th Century Studio now.
I don't care what Disney calls it. It will always be 20th Century Fox. Disney is the tone-deaf son of a dried-up trout. Anyway, after Disney bought up Marvel, the comics declined in quality. Under the Disney leadership, we got black versions of traditionally white characters. While there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, we also never got to see it the other way around. Hey Marvel, you're alright with making a half-black, half-Hispanic version of Spider-Man, but why didn't we get to see a half-white, half-Asian version of Power Man? Why doesn't Black Panther ever go to an alternate reality where there's a white Panther? Is it because you're an SJW weakling that insists on turning classic white male characters into minorities and never the other way around? I think the answer to that question is yes.
Don't forget female Thor.
Of course, there was also that trend of making female versions of traditionally male characters. Again, there's nothing wrong with that at face value, but they never went the other way around. Why couldn't Storm go to another dimension and meet a man with her lightning powers who was also named Storm? Why couldn't Rogue go to another dimension where a white guy was also named Rogue and had her power siphoning abilities? Oh right, it's because under the Disney leadership, Marvel became a blue-haired SJW freak who couldn't apply changes equally across the board.
Not to mention Captain Marvel. Why did they make her look like a guy?
I don't know why, Speckles. Marvel has been saying that we have to respect all women, but then it turns right around and strips femininity away from female characters. For example, She-Hulk looked like a woman when she was first created, but now she looks like a masculine mess. And Captain Marvel kept going through crew cuts and now wears manly clothes. Marvel is so out of touch with its fans, and we have Disney to thank for that. More importantly, we have Little Bobby Igor to thank for that. And now, also thanks to the identity politics obsession of the last several years, along with the Chinese coronavirus panic, the comic book division of Marvel could shrink considerably, maybe even close down entirely. Comic book stores are being closed for good, even as we speak. Only people like Ethan Van Sciver will survive with well-established crowdfunding brands. Check out Cyberfrog by Mr. Sciver. Comics like that are going to be the new thing going forward.
You can't say those words.
What words? I have said many.
You talked about the Chinese coronavirus. You can't say Chinese coronavirus.
Says who? And who are you anyway, you little creep?
I am Hive Mind, queen of Tumblr art and enforcer of authoritarian YouTube policies. And YouTube says that any channel that talks about China or the coronavirus will be demonetized. Prepare to face my wrath for not following the rules.
So what? You're going to demonetize me? In case you haven't already noticed, I'm a hobby YouTube channel. It is my choice to never monetize my videos. So, What are you going to do about that, little lady?
I can always kick you off the platform, just like I will do with the Salty Cracker channel if he keeps spewing his right-wing propaganda.
But I like the Salty Cracker channel. He speaks truth to power. And I'm right-wing too.
Then you are definitely guilty of wrongthink. I'll let you go this time for entertainment value, but I'll be back to kick you off this platform when YouTube authorizes me to do so.
As you go, Queen Hive Mind, remember this. YouTube was founded in the United States. We value free speech in this country. YouTube would be wise to remember that. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances.
How quaint, reciting the First Amendment. However, you're forgetting one thing. YouTube isn't Congress or the government.
This is true, but it's the principle of the First Amendment that YouTube still chooses to violate as an American corporation that acts a lot like a big government.
So much truth, I can't handle it. I'm leaving now.
So, where were we?
We were talking about Marvel Comics before that little cretin rudely interrupted us.
Ah, yes. And now, in the midst of this Chinese coronavirus panic, Marvel stupidly decided to make a new comic series about 5 teenagers with the most ridiculous powers.
More ridiculous than Squirrel Girl or Howard the Duck?
Infinitely more ridiculous. One teenager has a magic backpack, and another teen has internet powers because he was exposed to internet gas. But the most ridiculous characters are the following: Snowflake and Safespace.
Snowflake and Safespace? Aren't those words used by normal people to describe SJWs?
Yup, and now Marvel has chosen to embrace that terminology and use it to name 2 of their characters. Any comic shops already struggling because of the Chinese coronavirus panic will go belly up if they get these comics shipped to them.
What about the 5th character?
Oh, the 5th character is a vampire named B Negative. Not much to write home about other than his name tries to promote a bad attitude. Oh, Marvel Comics. How the mighty have fallen. And we have Little Bobby Igor to thank for dragging Marvel into this situation. Though of course, Marvel also inflicted a lot of its own wounds too, with comic writers insulting fans on Twitter and whatnot.
In fairness, the Marvel Cinematic Universe was alright for a while under Disney's leadership.
The MCU started before Disney bought Marvel. And before we sing the praises of Kevin Feige, we now see that the MCU is going in an SJW direction. I'll agree, the MCU released a lot of good movies, but that was because Isaac Perlmutter was there to rein in Kevin Feige's SJW desires. I am not going to make the claim that Perlmutter was perfect. Apparently, the man had no faith in movies starring women and non-white people. I disagree with Perlmutter on that stance. But again, he was also responsible for keeping the MCU as non-SJW as it was for a long time. Anyway, little boy Feige wanted to put Brie Larson on a pedestal, so he whined to little Bobby Igor. Little Bobby Igor listened to little boy Feige and put Perlmutter in a different position in Marvel. That gave little boy Feige the power he needed to let loose and rain SJW ideology upon the MCU.
And that's when Brie Larson decided to spout off her ideas and say that she didn't need the opinions of 40-year-old white men.
Well, she certainly cared about the opinions of little boy Feige, but that's another story for another day. But it didn't just start with her. There was a big fuss about Black Panther also.
Are you going to say that the black people shouldn't have a superhero movie?
Of course not. I support people of all colors and cultures having their own stories to tell. Besides, Chadwick Boseman played a good Black Panther. My big problem with the movie is that it kept beating modern-day white people over the head about colonization that happened hundreds of years ago. For instance, Black Panther's sister reminded Bilbo Baggins about that fact, and I found it rather cringeworthy.
Why did you find it cringeworthy? Taking over other people's lands is not a good thing to do.
I agree. Wrongfully invading another person's land is never right. However, it's also wrong to bash colonization guilt over the heads of people who weren't even alive when their ancestors conquered someone else's lands. Everett Ross wasn't even alive during the colonization era. Black Panther's sister shouldn't have bashed that over his head. Besides, the story of colonization is not always a straightforward issue. Colonization doesn't always involve people intentionally taking over other people's lands. Sometimes people run away from persecution in their native country to go to a new land, and then things spin out of control in the new land. And that's the story of the first few generations of Christian colonists that fled from England and other places to find religious liberty in places like Massachusetts.
So, there was drama with Black Panther and Captain Marvel. Are there other issues with the MCU coming our way?
Unfortunately, yes. The alphabet community is now planting its rainbow-colored flag all over the franchise. I know I, for one, will not be watching Thor, Love and Thunder, The Eternals, or any of the other phase woke movies coming out. And who do we have to thank for little boy Feige being unable to shove this insanity into the MCU? Little Bobby Igor.
Clearly, the MCU is headed in a bad direction. Soon it will join Star Wars in the ranks of irrelevance.
Ah, yes. Star Wars. The Cinderella of this sad fairy tale. Star Wars, the beloved child of George Lucas, but now bought by the wicked stepmother known as Disney. What can I say about Star Wars that many other YouTubers have not already discussed? Disney decided to apply its world-famous stupid sequel formula to Star Wars. Disney had used that formula on its hand animation, and that is what killed the hand animation. Disney bought Star Wars and decided it could treat Star Wars the same way it treated its own movies. And now what do we have? We have Jake Soywalker drinking green milk. We have Amazing Wonder Ray using the Force without any training whatsoever. We have Laura Dern using hyperspace ramming. We have Yoda looking weird in The Lost Jedi. We have a Han Solo that doesn't look like Han Solo. And we have a guy called Mandalorian and his baby Yoda stealing the spotlight away from Boba Fett. It's Boba Fett I want to see, not this Mandalorian guy. And Baby Yoda can also do the same stupid force healing that Rey can, so Mandalorian is already not canon by my standards.
What about the Rebels show?
What about the Rebels show? It's insanely stupid. Sure, it had some great isolated moments, but the show is stupid overall. I didn't want to see Ezra, Hera, and the other annoying Ghost Crew members. I wanted to see a CGI show of Luke, Han, and Leia. The show could have been set between episodes 4 and 5 and followed the adventures of our favorite famous trio. But what did we get instead? We got time travel. Time travel! Since when does Star Wars have time travel? And what was the purpose of using non-canon time travel to save Ahsoka if she wasn't even going to show up in the Disney trilogy anyway? All of this was perpetrated by Kathleen Kennedy, the current president of Lucasfilm. Who enabled her to commit these SJW atrocities against Star Wars? Little Bobby Igor. And the worst part of it is that Little Bobby Igor stabbed George Lucas in the back when he bought Star Wars and brazenly proclaimed it in his stupid autobiography. George Lucas wanted his sequel trilogy made into the movies and even sold the sequel trilogy treatment to Disney. Little Bobby Igor gave the impression that he would honor that request, but then stuffed George Lucas's sequel trilogy ideas down the garbage can. Little Bobby Igor, you are the worst CEO ever!
Relax, my good sir. Remember, Little Bobby Igor is stepping down as CEO.
And good riddance to him. However, he's stepping down to executive chairman, which means he still has a lot of clout in Disney, possibly even more clout than the CEO. And now Bob Chapek is the new CEO of Disney.
Do you think things will get better under Bob Chapek?
Will things get better under Bob Chapek? No. According to the YouTube channel known as Clownfish TV, Bob Chapek is notorious for pinching pennies. Little Bobby Chapek is responsible for the decline in quality at the Disney parks.
What about the hand animation? Do you think Bob Chapek will bring back the hand animation that made Disney great in the first place?
Highly unlikely, especially now with the coronavirus. Disney parks and productions are shut down. Even as we speak, Disney is accruing even more debt to stay alive. The possibility of bringing back hand animation is probably the last thing on Mr. Chapek's mind, as he will find ways to cut costs.
So, we're doomed, aren't we?
Indeed, Speckles, we are proper doomed. With Little Bobby Igor still on the board and Little Bobby Chapek now given full reign at Disney, nothing is going to change at the company. The monstrous SJWs are going to continue ruining movies at Disney. The boycott is still on.
Is there any hope for Disney? Are there any terms under which we would ever do business with it again at this point?
I hope to occasionally buy merchandise of the franchises I loved before Disney took them over, and complete my collection of old movies Disney made in its better years. Aside from these things, Speckles, the answer is no. I will not do business regularly with the mouse. Disney must apologize, and not just for entering into league with the SJWs, ruining franchises, and making bad movies and shows. It must apologize for catering to communist China, a country that is infamous for abusing people. It must also apologize for being openly pro-abortion, the biggest crime of all committed by Disney. Don't forget, Disney threatened to boycott Georgia because Georgia wants to save unborn children from murder. Disney must apologize for that too. But it probably will never apologize for these things. Disney will continue forward with its neck held high and proud against God and fandom. It is our job to continue to resist this monolithic corporate titan until it crumbles to dust. Of course, what the viewers of this video do with their money is their decision, and I support everyone's right to make that decision. But I will continue the boycott fight as best as I can. Now, my friends, go forth, be gracious to everyone, and may God bless you.